Good afternoon, welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways. Let's adjust that camera just a little bit. Working on a microphone to improve the sound quality. I'm also working on separating the channels out once again. We'll talk about that later. Right now we need to talk about Peter Zeihan. Again, Zeihan on politics, or on global politics. He did a little short piece today about energy, the energy crisis in Europe and energy markets in Europe. And he's got a lot of caveats there. And he's very specific that he's got a lot of caveats because no one knows exactly what is happening, exactly what is going to happen. He makes a very valid note that it's the margins that determine the overall cost to some extent. Now, that's to some extent, that's not, I don't think that's as universal as he just puts it out there. Sometimes he puts things out very simply like, this is the law. Not quite, but it does have an effect. He also notes that Germany in particular has a major problem in that it's now dealing with shipping liquid natural gas, LNG, and de-shipping it, so converting it back into regular natural gas so that it can go off to become a petrochemical for their industry on ships at ports. Like, it's a very expensive process. It's a stopgap, and yes, it's a problem. I fully acknowledge that it's a problem. Second, Peter points out that the Americans are relatively agnostic about our energy sources. What he means by that is that we have not been fully centralized. Many of the European economies are centralized. The political powers have got control over the market for energy, production, consumption. They can tell you to turn off your thermostat. They can turn off your thermostat for you. They can tell you to turn off this generator. They can tell you never to turn on this generator again. They can tell you, yes, all power will come from this source instead of that source. Very centralized. And in America, we don't have that. We have what he calls agnostic. But what Peter really means is that we have a sort of a market system. It's not necessarily a free market. It's a protected market. A lot of us come down on the wrong side of that because it's very illegal to produce your own power in a lot of suburban environments. So we don't have a free market. It's a controlled market. There's a controlled infrastructure. There is a limited infrastructure. There's wires that go to your house that go to a grid. So there's a controlled, limited infrastructure. But it is nonetheless a market. The federal government lacks the power to say all of your power is wind, period, dot. And if it fails, oops, well, too bad for you. So we have a lot of energy sources. And we have state level, because we are, in a sense, a federation. The United States is a federated states kind of model. We have a lot of state-level regulatory oversight or capability. So, for example, Arizona has nuclear power. California got rid of nuclear power. Big difference. And it is a big difference, even though we share a grid. Wind power, solar power, coal power, all of this stuff, we have all of the ability to shift and meet different market or energy or crisis needs, different supply needs. And Peter makes a very good point to that. He doesn't go very far with it. He just says agnostic. He doesn't say enough about exactly how big a deal it is to have energy independence through multiple methods of energy generation. That's really key, and we need to not get rid of that. I don't care about the climate crisis people. We need to not get rid of that. If you want to come up with 5 or 6 different green solutions and spread them around, that's fine, but they have to be different solutions using different resources because sometimes things break down. Sometimes wars happen. So the main point of this video is that Peter makes a very, in my opinion, very big mistake in regards to Germany. He notes that Germany has constructed their energy space so that they are limited in what they can do. If they're not getting natural gas, then they're screwed. And it's not just energy, but it's also petrochemicals for industry. It's not just keeping houses warm and light bulbs on. There's a little bit more to it than that. And a lot of it is industrial. And the German government, the German power, okay, government and corporate all together, the German power structure has severely limited what is permissible, so they're pretty much stuck with that whole quote-unquote single-source natural gas thing. Yes, they do have some offshore power, wind power, or whatever. None of it matters in this context. It's not enough. It's not going to be enough. So Peter says, well, you either have to let your people be cold and in the dark all winter, freezing in the dark, or you have to accept that your complete economic situation has changed and everything's going to cost more and you're going to suffer the manufacturing economy consequences and fail. What he doesn't seem to get is that it's Germany, they've already centralized control, and they're perfectly willing to let their population be pretty cold and pretty in the dark if it keeps the manufacturing going. If it keeps their industrial economy going, people can wear blankets, people can put on sweaters, people can sleep in the dark. They don't care. This is where I think Peter is wrong. Peter assumes that Peter's an American. I'm an American. I've been around the world. I'm sure he's been around the world at least as much as I have. I don't know if he's actually sat down and got drunk in Franco bars, stuff like that. I used to drink with the old Francoists, and they had their story of Spanish society, and then you had the other story of Spanish society. You get both sides. What I think Peter's missing is that Germany is not America, and the whole concept of protect the individual and individual liberty and such. Even though we get some of that from some German dissident populations, keyword dissident, we also have much more of that than anywhere else in the world. This whole liberty, personal liberty idea. So Germany has a lot of immigrants, migrants, immigrants, whatever you want to call them, and in a very quiet and unreported way, I expect that some of those immigrant populations are going to get less of the electricity and heat this winter. There's going to be the class and the ethnicity issues. It's not really racial, it's just that Germans are Germans and non-Germans are, not German. It goes very deep in German cultural psychology. The German government can already tell you to move out of your house if they want to build a migrant displacement or repatriation block or something. They can make you move. They can tell you what to do. There's a lot of that the German government doesn't do a lot, but it has the ability to do that. So, yes, the Germans are probably going to have a relatively cold and somewhat dark winter to protect their industrial capacity. And in their shoes, it's a perfectly fair trade-off because they don't want their country to collapse completely because France is right there. And Turkey's right there, and France, the Franco-Turkish axis of European power is a very real possibility. So yeah, Germany's going to keep the lights on for Volkswagen before they keep the lights on for the people. I see that as relatively obvious, and I think it's strange that Peter doesn't acknowledge that as a very real policy choice that could be made, and that I think will be made. Stay sideways.